But if I have a different opinion, I'll let you know. And if your opinion isn't a good one, I'll let you know.
Would you take Bo or Max Domi right now? When Jim Benning gets to the table and he sees JT Miller, I think that's what made him hit the gas.
You make those trades.
Look at what he's done being emerged into our lineup. It's night and day.
He's going to be our next Sammy Saddle, besides playing half a game a year.
So sick of people acting like he hasn't been that bad. Dude, he has been atrocious. And these mental gymnastics you have to go through to get to Colin's mind space on this trade is just, to me, it's way too much. Mr. Horvat has been bad. He's our captain. This is such a stupid take, Colin.
What's going on, guys? The Hockey Hour is live on the air here. Today is a very interesting episode. I'm in I'm in my fucking car because I feel like I haven't been able to properly rant about this team because I live in a basement suite and I don't want my neighbors getting mad at me, but I want this to be authentic as possible. But it's time for me to unload here. So here we go. First of all, what I've seen from the Canucks this year is absolutely unacceptable. And this isn't me faking anything. This is me actually just speaking as like frustrations built up. I've been a hardcore fan of this team for my whole life and just I've been so patient with them and so supportive. But when you have someone like me turn on the team like it has, and that tells a lot of people something if you actually know who I am. And I'm so fucking tired of this. Like, it's been 8 years. The owner of this company is gone on Twitter and said, "Oh, we support what's going on right now." What kind of a fucking message are you fucking sending your fan base when you do that? Pardon my French, but like, I don't care. Like, get mad at me for swearing all you want. This is bullshit, okay? What kind of a message are you sending? You have Travis, like, even the media, Travis Green is not doing a good job with this team. Jim Benning is doing terrible. Time for a change. You have fucking Montreal over there, who's like, how are their expectations higher than ours? How is that possible? Montreal fired their coach, and I'm sick of this pandemic BS excuse crap. I'm tired of it. I can't do it anymore. It's not an excuse. It's Aquilini being cheap is what it is. Okay, that's exactly what it is. Time for a change. The fans are better. It's been 50 years without a cup. It's been 8 years in this rebuild, and this is what we're seeing. And today on the radio, I heard some guy say, "Oh, well, Pedersen and Hughes are still learning with the team, blah, blah, blah. It's a process." What do you need, another 10 years? Like, I'm not blaming Hughes or Pedersen. I love them. It's not their fault at all. This is not on them. But this is just not good enough. You can't just keep doing this. It's not fair as a fan. This is the hockey market in Canada. Like, it's just unacceptable. And as a fan, I don't want to watch this crap anymore. I want change. I want it now. And, like, how do you have Montreal do this and us just stand still and do nothing? They're 9-5. We're 2-27. It's bullshit. Bullshit. Absolute fucking bullshit. Not good enough. Unacceptable. Unacceptable for hockey market to act this way. Seriously, unacceptable. And you know what? I don't know if they don't make a change, I don't know if I can keep supporting this team because it's just not fair. I expect better. 8 fucking years and this is what we get? It's absolute ludicrous at this point. And you know what? I don't even know what else to say. Like, I feel like we're Buffalo right now. We're the Buffalo Sabres right now of the Western Conference. What the fuck is this? All right, that's my rant. I feel better now. I had to get that out. I had to do that.
Ooh,
All right.
deep breaths. Deep breaths.
Deep breaths. I'm just so sick of this shit. I am. All right.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
gonna
definitely
go.
hard to watch. I mean, like this is
Man.
definitely some questionable decisions being made, but I don't know. As we get into it, I'm gonna play the devil's advocate a little bit, and I'm gonna have a stick up. I don't know. I don't certainly agree with Montreal's moves, and I don't certainly agree with some of the things you did say. So it'll be fun, but yeah, I don't know. It's definitely unacceptable to be able to watch this every night. and
You wanna-
you basically expect the same game.
Yeah.
Like it's almost the same garbage every night. Sorry to say, but
Yeah, it's just trash. It's trash hockey. You're up 4-0 or 3-0. You blow three leads, two 2-goal leads and one 3-goal lead. How does that happen? How do you do that? Especially with how? Where's the explanation for this shit? I want to know why this is happening. I liked our game tonight. Why? Cool. We didn't win. We didn't fucking win. It's been 8 years.
I feel like I'm doing a podcast with a skinnier, angrier Austin Matthews with that dirty stash.
Can I go in my house, please? You want to pause this?
all right, we'll take a time.
All right. Thank you for listening to me rant there. I had to get that off my chest as a passionate fan. Let's hit into the topics here. Today is going to be mostly about, what else is there to chat about besides incompetence of this team? But we'll start with some Travis Green talk. And basically, in the offseason, everyone was wondering why obviously he wasn't signed to an extension, and even I was myself. And basically, Aquilini sends his tweet out saying that Travis Green's the coach of the future, yet he's not signed to an extension, and it just simply doesn't add up at this point. And I'm wondering if maybe that decision wasn't made because of what we're seeing right now. If there's some underlying reasoning to that. So I wanted Austin. I'll start with Austin here. What's your opinion on that? There's got to be something that someone in the organization saw. I don't think it's a COVID thing with the financials. I don't buy that.
No, I don't buy that. I mean, we've had a lot of mixed talk about Aquilini, and one thing that Dylan would say is an owner is not just going to hand over their team that's worth X amount of $1 million and just not care, unless, like most owners in sports, it's not their main thing, or they don't their main amount of expense, really, because most owners aren't really that's not their main thing. You have some other big subsidy that they make money off, which the Aquilinis do. But when an owner is this picky and this involved for the wrong reasons, it sends you mixed messages. And at the end of the day, we hear what people want us to hear, whether it's Travis Green's side or it's the owner's side. When we hear these things that he's going to get an extension or he's our guy of the future, well, then do it. That's all I can say. There's nothing, if he's your guy, you're going to lock him up and get a deal done because you believe in him for the next 3 years. You're not worried about this COVID year, which you want to make all these excuses about that. Okay, well, then you've also got to take into consideration the COVID year for his results and what you're seeing and all these things. So there's kind of a double-edged sword there. I just don't buy it, and I've never been a fan. And I think the owners see what I see. I think Benning may, see him as his guy, and he's keeping him around. I don't know really what the involvement is there. Maybe we'll learn a little bit more over the next little bit, but I just don't see it. And like I said, I think that you would already have done an action by now if he's your guy.
Yeah. Agree, Dylan. Thoughts?
What's the exact question I'm responding to?
Well, Aquilini said that Green's his guy going forward, yet he hasn't signed him to extension. So
okay,
it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think Austin summed it up at the end nicely there. I mean, there's definitely it comes down to dollars, guys. That's what it's down to. They're not sure, but they don't want to pay to have Travis off the books and not pay him to coach, and then pay another guy to coach. And they're not sure if Travis is their guy long term, so they're not wanting to extend him.
Well, Aquilini tweeted that saying that he is, though.
But that's not true. That's not true. It's clearly not true, because if he was, you would sign him to extension. Clearly that's not true. Otherwise you would. The problem is, if you don't think he's the long term for sure, if you think he might be or probably is, but you're not 100% sure of it, you're going to wait, because otherwise, if you decide, sign him through to a 3-4 year extension, and then you decide in 8 months that you want to get rid of him, now you're paying him for 3.5 years. And I don't know what they make, probably $1 million he probably
Yeah.
makes. So a year. So that's $3.5 million down the tube. And right now we know Aquilini doesn't have a bunch of money to burn. So it's what it is. It's money.
And at the same time, I do kind of understand that take because he has been paying a lot of coaches a lot of money to not coach this team for a while.
That's true.
But at the end of the day, that comes down to understanding, like I said, where the power struggle is here or where the power structure is in this organization. Because if Benning made all those hires, if those were all his guys and those are all his decisions, then I understand the owner stepping in and having these questions, but then make a move. That's all I'm trying to say is make a decision. You either fire the guy or you extend him because at this point you're not seeing satisfaction. And
No, and that's where the next topic comes in. It's like
Yeah,
isn't that
sorry.
toxic to the team? Like that's like how do you keep a guy here who's not part of the long term? Then I just don't like what is it? Is it like I just don't understand. Like
Well, I have a couple thoughts. I want to step in because I think I'm going to answer some of your questions. And I'm pretty sure this is the case.
Okay.
So, a couple thoughts. He doesn't want to burn a bunch of extra cash. Problem is, what he doesn't understand is having Travis Green in place longer is going to do permanent damage, and he clearly doesn't understand that. But I'm pretty sure through any reasonable logic, Jim Benning wants to replace Travis Green. It's good for Jim Benning. It sets a reset for the team. Clearly, he knows this team's having problems. Gives him a timeline where he can say, look, we've just implemented this coach. Let's see how this goes. You got to give him some time. So obviously, in my eyes, from this, Jim Benning would want to, and Francesco is saying, no, I don't want to pay for two different coaches. What this comes down to is, okay, Travis isn't going anywhere to the end of the season probably because you don't want to pay two coaches, and that is due to the fact that Francesco, I believe, will be moving on from Jim Benning after this season. I believe he's going to let Travis's contract run out at the end of the year, fire Benning, bring in a new guy in the offseason, set him up, let him pick his own coach, let him pick his own staff, start fresh.
I get that. I don't agree with it.
I don't think it's the right call because I
I
think you
know.
have to get interim coach in there. Sorry, I just need to interject this. You have to get interim coach in there because bad habits are being taught. But I'm pretty sure that's Francesco, just from a business perspective, a dollar perspective, his game plan.
Okay, well, that perfect lead off to where do you give Francesco out of 10? Because, that's a bad decision right there. That's not right. You don't do that. You're trying to develop this young core, and if you don't think that coach is the right guy to do it, then what the hell is he doing there? I mean, you know what? You got to question his passion for the team. I'm not questioning that. I know it's high, but I mean, doesn't mean that he's a good owner. It doesn't mean he knows what he's doing. And I'm starting to question that.
Can I go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I think an owner. Okay, I have a structure that I believe how a franchise is supposed to be run. And you can add different elements like a president of hockey ops in there, especially for an owner who doesn't want to be super involved and wants an expert in there taking some of his responsibilities. But I see a structure and I have a very outlined structure of how I think it's run. So for an owner, his roles are to A, spend to the cap, and B, hire a general manager, and then C, do everything, like organize everything offsite in the highest level in terms of marketing, sales, all of that stuff, which we don't really see. Honestly, I don't give a fuck about. But the two hockey operations that matter are pay to the cap and be willing to, and hire a general manager. He always pays the cap, and then you have to give him that. He spends the dollars. Yeah, he spends it on scouts. He spends it on everything. He is not afraid when he is convinced something's worth the money to spend the money. So I give him an A++ on that. General manager, like choosing, is a different story. I mean, Benning has been in place for too long. He's been given too much leash. He was given leash over Trevor Linden. But at the same token, I don't love Gillis. I think Gillis was a decent general manager, middle of the road general manager. Jim Benning, I don't think is a very good one. I don't think he's the worst, but I think he's probably top 70%. So he's hiring middle of the road general managers. So I'll give him like a C plus on that. So I'd probably give him a B minus. Let's call it a 7.5 out of 10, I would say.
Okay.
That's interesting.
So you're giving Aquilini a 7 out of 10 or 7.5 out of 10.
7.5 out of 10, I think.
Okay. Austin, what do you?
Well, I don't know. I'm going to go on a little bit of tangent here. I'm besides a Canucks fan, I'm a big Seahawks fan. And the Seahawks had one of the best owners, I think, to ever live on the face of this earth, Paul Allen, the co-founder of Microsoft. He came in and he saved the team when they were dying. They were about to leave, just another franchise. Anyway, he was one of those owners that was very involved, just like Aquilini. He was always there. I know after every Seahawks game, I heard that he would get the GM to write him up a report of the game, why they made the decisions they did. I want to know every drive. What was the plan here? Why did you do this? And he put pressure on them. He kept them in check. He kept Pete Carroll, who's one of those GMs who knows what he does and takes over the room. He kept him in check, and he was so involved that it was important for him to be there. He didn't need to hire somebody else to be like a head of hockey operations, football operations. He just passed away a couple of years ago, and his sister took over. She's not so much into football. She's not involved. Both of them are very good owners. Aquilini is just so involved in a way that I see not a lot of positivities out of it. Like over the years, we've heard negative things of the power struggles in the organization and setting unrealistic expectations for people. Not saying that we've met any expectations over the last 5 years, that's for sure. But
I want to push back real quick and also agree with you in two ways. You say he's very involved, but it sounds to me like this guy you really respect. And honestly, it sounds like an impressive owner. He was more involved, expecting reports. So I do want to balance that out.
And that's what I'm saying is he had a way though of understanding the structure of an organization, dealing out the pressure on the people he needed in the ways that he understood were important to him, not stepping in and trying to make decisions for the GM, not telling him who to draft, not telling him how to run the team, how to run the inside organization. You hire people to manage that. That is your job, is to, like you said, your job is to hire someone to delegate that responsibility who's smart enough and has the means to do that. Step 100%. Back. You have a certain amount of responsibilities to be there and be putting pressure, like I say, but you got to know your boundaries. You can't be in and out there. So I guess
let me go, Colin. Let me go after.
Oh no, let me just give me his
the rating.
Honestly, I don't know if I've ever heard anything positive about the owners, and I'm not trying to say that as just a hit on them. I'm just saying I don't know if I've ever heard a positive thing. And to that effect, I'm gonna give him like a 4.5. I don't think he's even being the average owner at this point, because you're stepping in and making too much. And at the same time, hey, like I said before, all these decisions, these coaching hirings that you're now having to pay for, all these, even the GM hirings that are somewhat questionable, like you said, that those GM hirings are on you. Even if you are an anti Jim Benning person, which I'm in favor of him, if you disagree, then that's once again on the owner to have let this happen this long. If you think it's this terrible, and I just don't see how there's been any positive effects on the organization of his involvement. So I'm giving him 4.5.
Okay, I gotta say a couple things, a lot of which is really just to add on, because talking about that Seahawks coach, there is, yes, if you're an owner, you're very knowledgeable, and you're the type of business owner and leader that can have direct contact and supervision over the employees below you, that will work. But Francesco, from what I can tell, is not really that type of charismatic and easy to work with person, and B, doesn't have that hockey knowledge. So it's very clear that he does need to put, and we've talked about this before, someone in a hockey ops position who, exactly like what Austin's talked about, expects a report after game, asks the questions. Why did you do this? Why did you make the decision? Explain to me your logic on this. This needs to be done, and Francesco doesn't have the expertise, and he needs to put that person in place. And everyone needs to answer to that person, and that person needs to answer to Francesco. That's the only way it works. But I do want to push back on that 4.5 rating, because I do really think it's so important to be willing to spend the dollars. So I want, just
Hey,
to 4.5.
I'm looking at
can
this
I
from a
say
hockey.
something?
Yes.
Let me talk.
Wait. Let me
Hey,
finish,
I
and
just
then you
wanted to
go.
put one
I got
thing.
like
I don't
3
have
more
anything.
seconds. I got like
Okay.
3 more seconds, and then you go. So that also, though, there's like these minor tweaks, because he spends to the cap and is willing to spend the dollars. There's minor tweaks like putting this president of hockey ops in position and changing the structure a little bit that could make him a really good owner.
Dylan.
Well,
you
I'll
go.
just say this. Sorry, all my rating was based on is literally, I guess, hockey operations. I understand the business side. I don't care about that. That's your job to take care of the taxes and the sales and the accounting. You're that's the least you need to do. So I'm just looking at the hockey operations. So go ahead, Colin.
No, but that's what I mean. Like, there's small tweaks that could make the hockey ops really, really good. Now go, Colin.
I can go now.
Yeah, you can go now.
You sure?
Welcome to the Hockey Hour with Dylan Niebergall.
Jesus Christ! Let me in a fucking word out with that. All right. This is
You
what
ran
for
it for like
15 minutes.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, but I warned you I was gonna do it.
Okay.
Sorry, I should have warned you I was going to talk in this podcast. I should have warned you we were going to talk a little bit.
In this podcast, whenever you guys want to talk, as the moment I notice it, I let you guys do it. All right, so you got to give me that.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, that's all good. I'm just teasing. Well, I'll push back a lot here on Dylan's point, because he said basically the way I see Aquilini. I'm not trying to knock Aquilini, like, he's an owner of an NHL team, for crying out loud. I'm a podcast host, but what I see is a guy. Just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean you know what you're doing. Like, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't translate to that. Like, you could put, let's say a dad has a multi-billion-dollar industry and gives it to his kid. Doesn't mean shit. The kid could hire a bunch of people. Doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, but that's not my argument.
I know. My point is, I like Austin's point. I give Aquilini a 5.5 because you said, oh, he doesn't. It just, the team's never won a cup, for one. That's a huge one. It's been that long, he's never won a cup. They've only been close a few times, not even that many times. You look at LA and Chicago and some other dynasties, they've been a lot closer so many times. And every time we go to a final, it's like once every 10, 15 years. These other teams, you go to finals a lot.
Well,
and
the average would work out to once every 15 years.
Sure, but I'm just saying that I just don't think Aquilini is that good. I don't. Like, he, again, fire all these coaches that we're paying for right now, GM bending at the helm. I don't mind Gillis, but Gillis has a strengths and weaknesses. He was a solid GM, but it's just you look at the list of success this franchise has had, it's really not that much. Like, where is it? Like, we had the year of 2011, like that core, that was good. That was their best years in franchise history. But you compare that to like an LA and Chicago and those dynasties, it's nothing. Congrats. Boston went to the Cup final like 2 years in a span of like 5 years. The moment we went to the Cup final, we haven't been back there since. So why,
I don't understand. Okay, I don't think you understand the root of my argument, though. My argument isn't that he's good. My argument is that a couple small tweaks could make him a really good owner, such as putting someone in place in the hockey ops role and in the boss figure that would make him a very good owner because he's doing everything you want.
Yeah,
so
but
yes, he's not a good GM now, but it's like when you say you have a core of players, right? And you go, okay, we have Pedersen, we have Besser, we have Horvat, and we have Hughes. That core is as good. The pieces we've surrounded them with are horrible, but at least we have this core to build from, right? It's the same thing with Francesco, where he is the core of willing to pay $85 million a year in players. Now he just needs to shut the fuck up, hire someone who knows what he's doing, and we'll be fine.
Okay, but the fact that he doesn't know that yet doesn't give him a 7. You should know that as an owner. That's your job to know these things, and you give him a 7 for that.
No, but the point is, Colin, the point is it's so much better than Eugene Melnick is the prime example of, I don't give a fuck. I would way rather be in our position because he won't spend the dollars. So they'll never be good and never stay good because he won't spend the dollars. And honestly, he runs a fairly good team. Their scouting's fantastic. He always hires good coaches. He always hires good teams. It doesn't matter though, because they'll never be good. So at least there's the chance.
We have about just as much success as
okay,
the
but
Senators, though.
You also look at exactly. I was about to say that. You look at
Like,
Ottawa's.
if you want to say that, I mean, we
How
have
many
about as much.
President's Trophy has they run in the last 10 years?
Oh my goodness, we should.
Wow.
Did
How many
you
finals
go to the
they been
banner?
to?
Did you go to the banner celebration? They went to one, didn't they not?
They've probably been to just as many as us.
Oh, they went to a conference final.
Dude, you cannot sit here and say we've had more success than the Ottawa Senators over the last 50 years. You just can't say that because it's not true.
10. I said 10, but yes, 10.
No, I get what you're saying. But I don't give a fuck. I care about success over the span of 50 years. If we haven't,
You want a cup? I get that. I do too. But it's clearly a better position than.
I'm not saying I want a cup. I'm saying I want to go to the final more often than we have.
And all I can say is, at the end of the day, I don't know, like, you've never seen it. That's all I can say. Is you want to say, like, just to Colin's point, it's been this long and you're not getting that figured out. If you have to wait forever to, like you say, you just need a couple minor tweaks. Well, at the end of the day, you said the owner comes down to like 3 things. Well, if you've only got to tweak 1 or 2 of those things, it's not a lot to tweak, but you've got to be able to understand that you need to do that. And he's obviously never shown that. And that's why I give him such a low rating, is because I just having that much involvement in the way that he does it like you said earlier, it gives kind of mixed signals. We don't understand where the organization's going. Like, we trust Jim Benning, but now we don't. Like, I'm back in here. I'm going to kind of step in and do my thing. And now Travis Green's our guy, but we're not going to give him extension. So it's like, you've got to do something. You've got to prove it. Like, I just can't, you can't say that. Like, I could understand if we've seen it before. You know what his best times was when he handed over hockey operations. And Brian Burke was around and being able to let Jim Benning do his thing and draft that core that you talked about.
That was a good decision.
So, hey, at the end of the day, like you said, take a step back, but he's never understood that he needs to do that.
Well, and you're right about that. That is the correct argument against my argument, and it's not wrong. It's not
checkmate. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's it's fun.
I think that we're in agreement of a lot of things. I think if we came down to the basic points of what do we think is most important, we would say spending to the cap. I think we'd all agree is the willingness to spend the cap is the most important thing for an owner. And then we'd say the ability to hire a GM, and then we'd say the ability to step out of it. Or maybe those two are reversed. Those two are debatable. Either way, he's failing on those two, and I think we all agree on that. Can we agree on that?
Well, I would say your third thing, it's like you touched on it earlier, the marketing and being able to build a brand that actually wants to sell. That's also on you. Like, you got to hire the right people once again. But go ahead.
One thing I'll say is, I think we should be comparing ourselves to the standards of the Pittsburghs, the LAs, the Chicagos.
I agree.
We should be putting ourselves below that. For a Canadian fucking market that cares this much about hockey, we should have higher standards.
Yeah.
And our basis of arguments, like your basis of argument, it seems like you're coming from a lower standard.
I agree with you, and I actually think that this is something I want to talk about for a while. Just to switch off this for a second, is when we talk about these type of topics where we're comparing ourselves to a general average of the league, is we need to stop. And a prime example is like like I've heard this argument multiple times. It's actually called multiple times is a second line winger will score 40 to 60 points or whatever it is, and he scores 50, and therefore he's a second line winger. But we shouldn't be comparing to these average benchmarks. We should be comparing to the upper echelon of benchmarks, because we want to be the best fucking team. right? And I think we should do that with all things in terms of this conversation, in terms of head coaching, in terms of everything. Is I think it's very important we do that because I don't want to be a mediocre team. I want to win a Stanley Cup. That's all I care about. I don't give a fuck about anything else. Let's win a cup.
Yeah.
And
I
one
agree.
thing that I will say that I've given Jim Benning credit for is his drafting, and everyone always just toted that. But to your point, if we were comparing ourselves to the best in the league, we're not doing anything like Tampa Bay is doing.
Yeah, not even
Like
close.
we're
Not
not
even
creating a bottom six out of our drafting, out of our undrafted free agents. We're not doing anything picking up these players that create supporting cast. I mean, Hoglander, like once again, we get these like one or two guys in the draft that are good, but over the span of that long, like you need to be able to build a bottom nine out of your later picks and be able to have a good farm.
Yeah.
Like they lose 2-3 guys every year and they go end up being, top 9 guys on other teams.
I got a question
Yeah.
for you guys. You guys said last podcast that I think Dorian's been fired by Ottawa. Was that
Huh?
right? Has Dorian been fired by Ottawa, or is he
Pierre
still at?
Dorian? He's the
Yeah,
GM.
yeah, he's
I
still
never
the GM.
mentioned that. Oh, okay.
Okay, I can't remember. Maybe I'm mistaken. I've been saying this for a while. I can't remember if I ever said it on the podcast, but I mean the ability that he has to spend such few dollars and does such good scouting, and he's just smart about the way he manages assets. There's a lot, and the way like his coaching hires have been excellent too. He finds like maximum value out of like money. He hires the best people for his budget and drafts the best players and makes the best signings and makes the best trades. He seems to be able to build a half decent team out of nothing. And like for once, I would just like no one seems to take a flyer on these type of guys, but let's just you clearly Aquilini doesn't want to spend the money on type of GM that like Lamorella, who's an expert and can build you a good team and knows what the fuck he's doing. He doesn't want to pay those guys $4 or $5 million a year. So let's take a flyer on one of these guys who shows some promise rather than bringing in a guy who really has no background at all. I mean, Dorian, to me, if you gave him $80 million instead of 60, he could probably build you a really good fucking team.
I mean, yeah, I obviously I like him. I always thought he was a pretty good GM actually. Like I don't have a knock on him. It's just I don't know. I mean, Ottawa's in a rebuild, so it's tough to kind of see the arts of what he's building right now, but you can kind of see it like yourself. I agree. I don't have a counter argument for that.
Well, he
I
got
mean,
great value out of his
yeah.
selling off in that first year. They're bad after they went to the
The
conference
Carlson
final.
trade was very good. That was a good trade.
Carlson trade, the
But the
Hoffman
Duchesne trade
trade.
was not good.
The
That was
Duchesne
rough.
trade was not good. Oh yes, the Duchesne
Yeah.
trade didn't work out for anyone. The
That was
tourist
rough.
Duchesne thing.
That was
Um,
rough.
the come on, the guy who went to Columbus, the speedy little guy.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I can't think of
Dzingel?
his name. Yeah.
Dzingel. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
I
who
never
else did they trade to
understood that
Columbus?
guy. He hooked a couple people with that one. I don't know.
And
Like,
they
who
sold
knows it?
someone else to Columbus that same year. Was it Duchesne? It was
It
Duchesne,
was
right?
Duchesne,
Duchesne,
yeah.
it was
Yeah,
Duchesne,
and they just the way he's able to sell, like he just takes like a nice turd and he smooths it, sands it out, polishes it in some gold, and he's like,
Yeah.
Columbus,
Yeah, he
why
does.
don't you take my
No,
beautiful
he's a good.
chocolate
He's a good
gold?
GM.
Yeah.
That's a fair point.
Well,
What I
I don't
wanted
know.
to
Like, sorry, I actually just wanted to say
go
one
ahead.
thing.
That's
Like,
fine. Yeah.
on that topic, like, who of the Canucks could we have moved? Besides the Sedins back, like, I don't know, like, who
Back
would
in
we
the
have been
day?
able to sell off? Like, if we were to have
Well,
that opportunity, like, I don't think Benning
like
has.
what
Or,
year though?
like, I'm
Like what?
I'm just
What
thinking
year?
of in comparison, like you said, they're in a rebuild, so they have so much opportunity to be able to say, like, yeah, here, take all our assets. I don't care. Let's see what we can
Yeah.
get. And then I just saying, like, we never. Maybe that's once again another decision by the owner and GM to
Okay,
not ever commit to a rebuild. So I don't know.
okay,
Yeah.
so let's go with the Kessler situation. Everyone acts like we were forced, but there was a third alternative that we never ever explored. It was
Keeping
LA,
it.
Anaheim, or you go the Joe Sakic route and you bury him like he did to Duchesne, and look how that fucking turned out for him. Worked great. You could do these other things, but the truth is Gillis didn't have the balls to do it, and he should have.
That was Benning.
Was that Benning?
That
Oh,
was
that's even
Benning.
worse. That's even worse. But when someone has, what's the classic saying? When someone has a gun to your head, you gotta fucking point a bigger gun at them.
Yeah.
That's what you gotta do, man. You
That's
gotta
fair.
like Ryan Kessler held all the cards and
I
held
know.
them by the balls. And what he should have said was, "Enjoy Utica. Have a
Yeah.
fucking blessed time in Utica, bud." Like, sit him down there for 6 months, he'll start wasting away his career, and all of a sudden that list expands. There's all these options. So, I mean, there's multiple other assets we could have. We took too long on Burrows. We took too long on Hansen.
Way too long. I agree completely with the Kessler thing. Honestly, now that I look at it, like the return we got was well, for one, I like even if the return we got was good, you never want to come from a bargaining position of having two fucking teams to work with ever. So I agree with that completely. That's a good point. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up. That was a rookie mistake by Benning because Sakic was the one who proved that you can work out of that situation. But no, Burrows we waited too long. Well, yeah, Burrows we waited too long on. I don't think you would have gotten great value for him ever because he benefited from the Sedins. But I thought Benning did good with what he got at the time. I
Yeah.
can't fault him.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, at the same time, too, I'm sure there was an opportunity prior to that where, once again, Alex Burrows had just a higher stock value because he was playing with the Sedins. Despite that, I'm sure other teams
Yeah.
thought more, highly of him prior to that, and he could have made that move, made that decision quicker. But I don't know. I wonder if I don't know. This is more of a hypothetical like question, I guess. But I wonder if once again, like we've already seen, and we make this joke about like if you make more money, you've got to be in the lineup. Like you can't have Ulevi in the lineup because he doesn't make as much as all these other guys and things like that. And maybe I don't know if that's the owner literally having some sort of, like you say, worrying so much about the money that it's like, hey, if I don't see something out of these guys, like you better show me something. You signed that contract. I don't know if that conversation is being had, but that kind of just popped into my head after that last conversation. Go.
All right. Just want to say this episode's brought to you by Pabst Beer. There we go. Here's our sponsor.
Oh, I know. I saw Dylan drinking some Bud Light, so it might be
No.
Kokanee.
Who do you
Kokanee.
take
Oh,
for?
I don't know.
So Kokanee and
Dude,
Pabst Beer.
it's the
Two of
beer out
cheapest beers
here.
you can buy. You know, I got a 15 pack today for $18. I was like, holy shit, I'll take
That's
that.
Pabst. That's the Pabst price, buddy.
Yeah, but I'll take it. All right. Works for me. It's fucking beer. I don't give a shit.
You gotta transition to the Bush, Colin.
Ooh.
The Bush? Oh, I don't know. I'm pretty stubborn with my beer. But
Oh yeah, but you drink Pabst. I'm pretty stubborn. Drink
Yeah.
Pabst.
Bush, yeah, potentially one day. One topic I wanted to hit on was my pre-game rant. I think this is important. There's no way in hell I'm not talking about this on this podcast. There's no way in hell you can sit there and tell me that the Montreal Canadiens don't currently have higher standards as an organization than we do. And if that's actually the case, that's so inexcusable. Like, if we were 9-5 and whatever it is right now, I'd be jumping in the streets, and they're 9-5 and they're not happy with it. Like, how do you explain this? Like, we've been at this for 8 years, and yeah, they haven't been a great team for how long, but I think the standard should be higher in Vancouver. That's the way I see it. Like, until I don't know, we've had a lot more worse seasons than they have in the past. They've been a pretty mediocre team for the past few years, but they haven't finished below the standings like we have, because look at their drafting. The last 4 drafts they've been picking in the 15th or the top 15 every year. We've been picking the top 5. So, we'll start with Dylan. Like, doesn't that piss you off as a fan to see something like that?
Yeah, I mean it's a money thing.
What do you mean a money thing?
Well, I think a lot of the reason we're not making a change is because of money. Here's the way I see it. I think it's bad. I think it's gonna have long-term repercussions on this group of players, which I don't love. Like, I've been very concerned about it for a while. This is the way I see the current situation. Like, let's say you got a girlfriend, okay? and you got a vacation planned with her, and you're in January now, you got a vacation in June, right? But March rolls around and she starts being weird, and you decide you want to break up with her, but you're not gonna, you got a vacation planned in July, so you can't break up with her till after the vacation. So that's the situation with Francesco
That's fair. That's fair.
and Benning right now. So he's like, no, babe, it's fine. Like, just leave Travis in place. It's all cool. It's all gonna turn around. And Benning's like going along with it, like, oh, everything's cool. He has no idea what's going
That's
on.
funny.
In the meantime, like Francesco's like, just
I
wait
like
till
that.
August and your ass is grass, baby. Like that is the situation. That's how I see this.
That's pretty funny. I like that, actually. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah,
um,
that's good. I mean, I don't completely disagree. Like I said, or like you said earlier, I don't know if I agree with it being the right move, but I think it is
Hopefully the
probably the
text is
move
still
that's going
getting.
to happen.
That's the important
Uh,
part. Go ahead, sorry.
Glad you threw that in there. I really, um, I don't even know what I was talking about, Colin.
I had to. Oh shit.
It
But
happens when we all drink fucking before
yeah.
the podcast.
But
Too
yeah,
often.
I don't know. I guess Montreal as a whole, I kind of get what you're saying. They've been kind of in the dumps for a while and they've been able to turn it around a bit. But I don't know if I completely agree with the move they did because I don't know if I think it's them having a standard or if it's their GM personally feeling on the hot seat and making a decision like we might have, or want to see Jim Benning do to save himself. I feel like that is a possibility out there. I don't know. I don't look too much into them and or really care. But I feel like from my first glance and looking at the one or two articles I did, that kind of was what I was feeling. Like he has made a couple of good draft picks. He's made a couple of decent trade signings and then a couple of really questionable ones and iffy ones. And it's just like to me it kind of felt like a scapegoat opportunity for him. And like they said, they've been seeing these bad habits and didn't want them to be continued, which I think we all agree we would love for that to end here too. But I don't know. I think he's just saving himself. And I'm kind of lining up more with what Dylan's thinking was now after hearing that.
Yeah, like I said, I just find it when I heard the news that they fired Julian Julian this week, it pissed me off. Like it's like I'm sitting here waiting as a fan for something to happen with the Canucks because I just want a glimmer of hope with this team because that's all I care about. I don't care if we keep losing. I just want hope, and I don't see it right now. And besides, our core, of course, but you know, I I just I just don't get how a team like that could be making moves and then we just stand still. Even Calgary, for crying out loud. If I was a Flames fan right now, I'd be fucking pissed right off. Like you see, like like I'm glad I brought that up because like if you're a Flames fan, you got to be even more mad because their core's been around longer than like our core's been only around a couple of years and their core's been around a long time. And they didn't make any trades. They just brought in two Tanev and Markstrom, and they're still terrible. Like they're still shit. And it's like, if you're a Flames fan, how do you process that? Because they're in a worse position than us right now. I'd say.
Like their core is still around since that playoff series, is it not
Yeah,
really? Like,
it's been around a long
and that's
time.
why, I honestly looking back and after we had that conversation, and for whatever reason, I agreed with Dylan saying that their defense looked good. I don't know why, but every other time I looked at their defense, I felt different. And seeming like you said, Giordano, I don't really understand him and
Yeah.
how they've relied on him to be their number one guy for so long. And you could argue we kind of done that almost with Edler, but he's got more reason to stand on. I don't know, more of a leg to stand on there. But yeah, it's definitely been interesting. I feel like they definitely need something to shake it up, but I don't know. At the end of the day, I don't really care. They can hopefully they
I know,
don't do something, don't do the right moves, so we can finally figure it out by maybe next year.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like they're in a worse position than us, and they're not making changes either. So it's like, Jesus,
There's a lot to unpack there. There was a lot just said. First of all, on the Flames defense, I still think their defense is good. Yes, Giordano is not the Giordano of old. Yes, he's a second pairing guy now. He's not a first pairing guy. It's very obvious watching them. I still like their defense though. Like, still like Anderson, still like Tanev, still like Hannafin, still like Giordano, still like Valimaki. So there's 5 pretty solid defensemen. I still stand by it. I still like their lineup. The Flames' problems are so much different, and I would argue maybe worse. And Colin alluded to this. They've been around since that 2013, 2014, whatever
Something
year
like
that was.
in a while.
That's the same core, it's the same team. There's been a few young guys come up, Kachuk, but for the most part, that core is aging. They've never done anything with it. They have attitude problems. There's been hints of drug problems. Like, that is some serious problem. There's clearly attitude problems there, though, at the very least. They've never been able to perform in the playoffs. They've never shaken it up, and they've never brought in a really good coach, just like we haven't. That's true for both organizations. Both teams have wanted to spend at the cap. They've been fine with that, but they've never been willing to pay for a coach, which honestly is absolutely crispy. We should talk about that another day, of one of the biggest fallacies of any hockey team ever, but that's a totally different conversation, how certain teams, especially Canadian teams, undervalue paying for a half decent coach. But regardless, they've never done anything. They have our problems are lack of quality, players in the roster, especially down roster, lack of coaching, and some poor management decisions. That's our structures. There is their core that was once young is now aging. It should be win now time. They have huge attitude problems. And now you're looking at a team where you're running out of years. You have a few years left. You're not performing, and you have to shake it up quick. Like, I'm opposed to the Canucks. Like, I'm very worried Jim Benning's going to go out, sell a bunch of players off, bring in other players, especially if they're older. That's would be pretty concerning to me from the assets we're shipping off. Their team is a team now where they have to perform now or next year, and they need to start doing these type of shakeups. It might be time to look at a serious core piece to trade off. You have to change that locker room. You might have to do a complete restructuring of the locker room. I don't know. They have a situation, but I gotta say, I really like Treliving as a GM.
Yeah.
What
He is a
I'll
great
say
GM.
what I'll say quickly is, they should have traded a core piece 2 years ago. It's been way too long. Like Monahan or Gaudreau, those are 2 guys I look at. I'm not gonna trade Giordano for crying out loud. He's like 37 years old. Monahan, Gaudreau. I honestly thought in the offseason when they lost, when they fired the coach and lost to Dallas, like I thought they would have traded. That was like their cue to trade a core piece, and they didn't do it. And I think it's Monahan, the guys that got to go. That's who I think has to go. Except he's your center and he's your second line center, and you can't just replace that. So then it shifts to Gaudreau, who's it's just easier to trade away a winger than a center. But one of those 2 guys are a main piece of the core that just has to move on. I think it's Monahan that has to move on, but he's a center and you just can't replace that. So I don't know. I mean,
I don't know. Back to our other point of comparing ourselves to the average. What is their owner? I don't really know who their owner is, but I know he threatened to move the team a couple of years ago because they couldn't get a new stadium. Which I mean, I'm not gonna say anything because I don't know what. I know you can have fun trying to negotiate with cities over building things like that, but yeah, I don't know. I've never heard much great, or like I don't know what he is as an owner, and that leads down to within the organization that insignificant structure.
Well, that was a ludicrous situation because the city acted absolutely ridiculous and really wouldn't. They weren't offering a package comparable to any other NHL city. And it is a draw having an NHL city. It brings in a lot of things, including tourism to your town. They wouldn't offer a half defense package, and the Saddle Dome needed to be upgraded. At the same time, then the fans went and acted completely ridiculous and gave the team absolutely no support. And then what was the team's idea? They then went and overreacted and threatened to move the city. Every party in that whole thing acted ridiculous. But anyways.
Sorry, I don't have much to say.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, no, we can move on from the Calgary
Yeah.
Flames podcast.
I'll say one thing here. I thought this was a good point to bring up. I don't agree with it personally. I don't compare them at all, but it's a fair question to ask. Do you compare the Canucks to the 2017 Oilers who lost to the Anaheim Ducks in the second round? Because right now it's looking like the same pathway, but with the way the team is structured, I disagree with it. We'll go with Austin here again.
I don't know nothing about the Oilers, so.
Well, when they lost to Anaheim,
I don't know. I honestly, I do understand what you're saying, but I
It's a
don't really
comparison
understand.
right now.
I don't understand what the question is. I don't know how like anything in depth about that team or
oh,
stuff like that. So I
I'll
just don't
step
really
in.
have much to say about
okay,
it.
Austin, they'll need to step in then.
Like, I don't know. It's
I
a very
mean,
specific.
not really. Like, I don't think it's a really close comparable. I mean, yes, in terms of we both had core star. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, man. I'm starting to like one thing that I want to touch on, and that I don't think is being touched on. Look, I think we got coaching problems. I think we got management problems. I think we have an attitude and environment problem developing too, which is concerning due to the fact that we're not changing things up and assisting these players. I worry about that. But I also, when I watch these games and we're playing well, but we can't score or we make mistakes, I'm also starting to see we have a talent problem too. So I think our problems are multifaceted. And at the same time, we have a cap problem on top of it for at least 2 more years and maybe longer with these contracts we brought in. So our problems run really, really deep. So do the Oilers. The Oilers have a whole different bag of problems, like the
Well,
fact that they're
that's
never going to be able to bring in a half decent goalie, but it's a different set of problems.
yeah, and that's kind of I guess what I didn't mean to just like I don't know. I don't really have anything to add to that because it's exactly it. I just mean like they have different issues. I don't know, they're not exactly in the same position. We haven't had a bunch of first round picks, the first overall picks to blow. That's a bit different of a scenario if you want to go back like that. Like I don't know. I think it's just not quite much of a comparison there. I don't know. We're just
Well, all I meant,
in a
all I
weird
meant by
spice.
that, all I meant by that is that they had at the time it was McDavid and Draisaitl who just entered the league and carrying that team. I like they had a decent young looking team, and then like last year we were a decent young looking team as well. So that's all I meant by that. I don't agree with it, but that's like I read on Twitter that a lot of people.
Yeah, but the problem is like here's the problem. That Oilers team went through the first round against I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, I sorry. Yeah, I'm starting to remember it now.
But they
But,
went through the first round against a team that was clearly after when we got the context of their following season, not a very good team. And then they went into Anaheim and got completely destroyed for nothing, if I remember correctly.
It was Game 7 that they lost.
Was it the
They
was it the
lost
following year?
Game
Because
7.
they got bounced in 4 games
They
against
lost
it.
Game 7 that year. That's what I'm saying. They almost went to the conference final.
Did they not get bounced in 4 games against someone, or
No.
am I thinking Calgary?
That was a long. No, that's
Probably
Calgary.
Calgary,
That's
yeah.
Calgary, probably.
I don't ignore me.
Never mind. I don't want to go with that. That's okay. Anyways, I thought I'd bring that up. It's not really a relevant point.
Okay, but I wanted to touch on something else. Okay.
Okay.
No, this has been driving me crazy for the last 2 days. Okay, because like about 5-6 games in the season, we start to see these problems with this team, and no one else that I heard started to like. There's maybe whispers of like, the Canucks, they're not very good defensively, but for the most part, no one was saying there. Most people were like,
Dude,
they're gonna figure it out.
the
And we
media
were
says Green's a good coach. It's all good. It doesn't
we-
matter.
we're the only ones talking about it, and now like okay, so then the whole like fan base blew up eventually a few weeks later and said fire Green, and then we know what happened. Ownership came out and said it's fine, but that was the first that the media started to talk about maybe this team isn't that good, maybe it needs a change. And then they went through the whole cycle. The owner steps in, and then they go, "No, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. They'll probably work it out." And we were there like 3 weeks beforehand, and now the media is finally getting to this place where like the Canucks might not be very good. And they're like, I really hope that they improve, but
It's still not Green's fault.
I'm a little worried that they might not get any better. And it seems to me the fans are stopping caring. And like, What the fuck? We've been talking about this for weeks. Like, it's just mind blowing how you have people who are paid like
Dude,
$100,000
Yeah.
salaries, and they're 3 weeks behind three
It's
fucking
because-
guys who have a
because-
10 viewership podcast. They don't even pay attention to these fucking teams. They don't know what they're doing.
I'm
Like,
not trying to call these guys out, but like it almost seems like they're fucking on Twitter the entire game. Like some of these media guys are still defending Travis Green, and like I want to know. I want you on my podcast. I want to know specifically why you think he's a good coach. Like why though? You can't just say, "Oh, this and that." I want to know why because I don't see it, and it just drives me nuts. How could you defend him?
Yeah.
Like it's bullshit.
I
And
feel
you
that
know,
way about
too-
Nate Schmidt.
Yeah, exactly. We need them all to come on to take on your guys'
Yeah.
opinions. But to your point, Dylan, that I was saying earlier in our group chat, even I'm just like, I just feel like we're kind of getting repetitive because we keep talking about the same things. But I didn't really, make it or connect it to that nobody else has been talking about this for 3 weeks. We just have been
No.
talking about it for so long that it's like it feels like it's the same stuff, but it's just because nobody's been catching on. I don't understand. They
They're
finally
going on to
are.
day 9, and they're like, man, this is getting repetitive. And I'm like, excuse me? This has been going on for weeks now. Like, are you guys watching the hockey games? Like, it's the same fucking shit.
Our defense has been shit for how long now? It's not no new thing. It's not this year. It's been since last year. It's
At game
know?
like 21, they were like, this roster
maybe-
might not be very good.
maybe
Like,
there's an
what
issue.
are you talking about?
Maybe there's an issue here. Maybe there's something up. Maybe it was just Marsh Montana that made us look
I
good
get
last
so
year.
tired too of like I get it. There's like a time frame you got to give guys to work into the system, and a time frame you should give a
Yeah.
team to gel or whatever. But I get so tired of like, you're 10 games into a season, you can't be like, this guy's not playing very good. And everyone goes like, whoa, he's only played 10 games. It's like, no, he's played 10 games. I'm allowed to say those have been bad 10 games. Hey, I hope he's good in the next 10 games, but I have every right to say he hasn't been good for 10 games. And people go like, hey, give him 10 more. And it expands. It always goes like, then you're 25 games in.
Well, that's when I
Give
disagree with
that
you.
guy 15 games more. He's only been here for half a season. Like, it just goes on and on with these fucking guys, especially if there's a
Yeah.
narrative that they want to force. Like, especially when you just hired a GM and for some reason guys like get this thing in their head where they're like, this GM is the savior, he is the messiah. All of a sudden, every move he makes is genius, and you can't criticize any of them. There's always an excuse. There's always there's always one guy who's brought in beforehand who's always a scapegoat. And
Mm.
it's just, I don't know. I hate when you can't criticize. I'm all for saying, okay, this guy could get better, but I have to be able to say, okay, in these 10 games, objectively, this guy's been bad.
Well, I agree with what you're saying there, but I feel like the media is shifting that onto Green now. Like, as in, oh, there's always an excuse with Green. But Benning, there's not. Like, a lot of the media is criticizing Benning, but a lot of the media is defending Green all the time. It's fucking driving me insane these days. I'm on Twitter. I see more stuff than you guys do, and it's just mind-boggling. Like, to see like the media go, "Oh, this is what Green's being thrown under the bus by Benning."
Yeah.
Do you watch the games the way they're playing? Do you watch the defense? How could you say that?
Yeah.
That's
And
what's
at the end
happening
of-
right now.
And at the end of the day,
Yeah.
the GM's job is to surround. First of all, the GM's job is to get star players, and then surround those star players with a supporting cast. That makes
Yeah.
sense. And then from there, the head coach's job is to work with what you have and put the best possible lineup, the best opportunity to win every night out there. To defend the players, I will say this. I've always been on the Fire Green train because I, once again, just don't believe he sets our players up for the best opportunity to win day in, day out. And that will make other players, or will make the players look bad, especially when you decide to make these questionable decisions, like
Dude,
once again,
Hamannik
scratching
should be
Ulevy
playing over
and
Ulevy.
and you know
Like,
what?
what is that?
I won't even attest it to that because I don't even think Hamannik's played that terrible. Even though last game I
No,
thought he was good. He had a couple of very questionable decisions made. But I will say this: it's like how you incorporate a guy back into the lineup. Like here, let's just shift Hughes and Ben. They've only been playing together great for the last how many games here? Why, like, you can't slot him in with Myers? Like, that doesn't work. Let's just throw up the whole thing. Like, I guess they kept Edler and Schmidt together, but that's because they're the only two who can play with each other. And
didn't they separate Edler and Schmidt?
It was starting lineup. They were. I don't know if
last
they did.
They separated them.
They didn't separate them. They didn't.
Last game they were together. No,
they were together.
That's the one. That's the only 15 seconds of the game I really pay attention to is the starting lineups right at the beginning. Because then after that, I know there's not a lot of hope. So I just
isn't it funny how like yesterday's game you actually noticed our defense being worse? Like, didn't you notice that?
Yeah.
Like,
worse from the last couple, but if you go back 10 games, I mean.
No, but I'm saying that worse considering Olevi was out.
Yeah, totally.
And that's just what I mean. Like,
so I'm just trying to understand. Yeah.
And it's not even about him being out of the lineup. Like I said, it's just how you reincorporate these guys and set them up. Like, I understand even like, I don't want to get too much into it, but even like, I guess putting JT Miller on that third line with those other guys, it's like, and trying to reincorporate Hoglander into the first line. I understand the moves you're doing, but sometimes you have to leave. Like, I thought that Hoglander was creating a lot of good opportunities playing with Bo and being in that line with him and Pearson. Like, for some reason, we're getting teams calling us about Pearson now. Like, I was okay with that. And so once again, it's like, why are you making these lineup decisions every day that make us question us freaking, like you said, 10 listener podcasts are like questioning these things. And the people who get paid to cover this stuff are like, let's just see how this lineup works. I'm not going to question a thing. I'm not going to question a thing about it. Let's just see how the dice roll. And man, that didn't work tonight, but hey, we played good.
There's no analysis, and I got to get in here because it drove me crazy from the moment. I'm sorry, Austin. I have to step in.
No, I'm done. I'm just.
You're right. You know, it's just so ludicrous. Okay, Taryn Pearson is having his best run as a Canuck. Okay, and it's off the back of him and Hoglander working really well. Who's been questionable? Bo Horvat. Why would you not, if you want to help them and facilitate them? Why would you not maybe try putting Pedersen or Miller in between them? Why would you break those two up? The two that are working really, really well. The two forwards you can say, okay, this is clicking. This looks good. Why would you break that up? You want to change some things, by all means, change some things. But don't take the two forwards who are having great success and say, fuck it, let's split them up. It's just so stupid.
And I'll say to this point, I agree so much. It's overwhelming. Sorry. If you're gonna mess up the lineup and you're so sick of how JT Miller is playing, like I said earlier, I don't know how many podcasts ago, maybe put him back at center. Maybe that's where you put him. Put him on the second line. Let Bo move up, even if he's got to play wing. I don't care. He hasn't been playing his best hockey. Let's give that a shake and put JT Miller back in a place where he's comfortable. Like, between him and Beagle, 100%. Like, they led us to the best faceoff percentage, like, as a core in the NHL. Like, what are we talking about? Why? Like, okay, yeah, go ahead. See you on the third line winger. That's you. That's right. That's Jim Benning's fault. I forgot. Yeah, you're right. No, it couldn't be the coach because he doesn't set the lineup card every night. You're right. No. It's got to be the GM who signed that guy and traded for him, that first round pick, man.
Okay, let's transfer though, because this whole thing about, I think we're all in agreement on the previous topic. I think we all think that is just true. But this whole fucking thing about, it's not about talent with our roster. And here's the fucking annoying part, right? It's not about talent for a few years, and then you get a position where fans shit on Louis Eriksson enough, and it doesn't matter that he's paid $6 million. He can be scratched, and he's the easy guy to be scratched, even though he's actually useful in terms of defensive shutdown role and a penalty killing situation. Someone that definitely makes our team better to have in the lineup, but it's just become such a narrative and such an easy guy to scratch. That's fine, but the fact that they signed Myers to a big contract, the fact they bring in Schmidt and he's been horrible, doesn't matter because they committed to them recently, so they must play them. And the defenseman in Ulevy, who's actually playing well, he can be scratched. It makes no sense. That's bullshit. It's bullshit. Yeah. It's bad. And that's like the thing that just drives me mad. They're not willing to accept that Jim Benning made a horrible mistake with that Nate Schmidt contract. A
Okay.
horrible mistake.
Okay, I'm not gonna get into the
Anyway.
nation stuff with you. I'm just not doing it this podcast. I disagree. I'm not doing it though. I've wasted enough energy doing that. Well,
Yeah.
He's
Anyway, go
fourth in
ahead.
the league in turnovers.
let me talk.
When are you gonna fall on the sword? It's the same thing with the Myers. When are you gonna fall on the sword and just admit that you fucked up? He's not that good. Like, here's my problem, Colin. No, I need to get in here because this has been irking me. There is no way you can tell me that you paid more attention and watched enough Vegas games to Nate Schmidt's play that you have not seen a bigger sample size with him as a Canuck than him as a Golden Knight. You've definitely paid more attention. This is the biggest set of data we have all seen of Nate Schmidt, and probably every media member too. Meanwhile, everyone goes, oh, but Nate Schmidt was so good in Vegas. But there's no way they watch more Nate Schmidt in Vegas. They watch, I bet you, a tenth. Most people, they probably weren't paying attention because they didn't know he was going to be a Canuck. So they didn't really study Nate Schmidt's play like we have studied for 25 games now. This is the biggest sample size we've all seen, and it is ludicrous to say that he has been good. So, at this point, it drives me crazy. People will fucking die on this. They watch every Vegas Golden Knight game, and they were paying attention to all of Nate Schmidt's moves. It's so ridiculous. I'm sorry. Anyways, I had to get that out.
That's fine.
It's been driving me crazy.
One thing I'll say
Dylan wakes up in the middle of the night just sweating to Nate Schmidt highlights in his head, just nightmares.
I have nightmares, man. It's he gets the puck on the blue line. Oh no, he fumbles it. Oh God, he's so slow. He can't get back. Oh no, he's got the puck in the corner. For some reason, him and Horvat are together side by side in the corner. There's no opposition to be seen. The slot's open. Oh my God, they scored. That's my life. That is my dreams.
Okay, what I'll say is the eye test helps your point. I'll say that. I think one thing I'll say is when you don't like a player, and don't interrupt me here, I'd let you talk. When you don't like a player, I think in your mind, you'll do whatever it takes in your mind to help you feel that satisfaction of agreeing with yourself. Because when you don't like a player, you harp on a player like I've never seen before, which is okay. That's fine. But I think, honestly, the way I see it is even during the intermission, the intermission guys made a good point. They actually made a very good point. They brought up that they know the fans hate Nate Schmidt and hasn't been good, but they brought up the stats and the analytics and all that stuff. And analytically, he's actually been good.
No, it depends what analytic you choose.
I'm going to take a sewing machine and
I get to step in.
Lips. No, you don't. You fucking had your chance.
But that was wrong.
No, analytic. Okay, I get it. I test wise.
No, it depends on the analytic, Colin. Because if you look at other analytics, you can see that he's fourth in the league in turnovers.
But again, I watch every game as much as you do, and I feel like you have a much I don't think Nate Schmidt's been very good, but you seem to go a lot when you see a player that's not very good. You seem to really harp on it. Is what I'll say. That's what I'll say. And I think that's a fair point. I do. You seem to really harp on it. And I'm not saying you're not wrong, but you're not
definitely
right.
see the negatives a lot more when you have a mindset about a guy. But I'm not. Once again, that's not wrong.
But Nate Schmidt he's done a lot better lately, and I feel like you're not noticing it in a way. I don't know. He has been better lately.
No, I think the last game was better. I think the game before that was a little bit better. I think that what you're not seeing is he is constantly out of position, even when it's not exposed. I think Edler is constantly covering for him and constantly saving his ass, to be honest.
You prop up Edler, but Edler makes so many bad decisions over the last 3 years, and you don't even comment on that. I just don't get this.
I don't think you're seeing the amount of positional errors Nate Schmidt makes. I don't think.
So does Edler.
No, I don't. I disagree.
You can't sit there and do.
I think that Edler has been so much better than Nate Schmidt. I think on that pairing, the reason those analytics look good is because A, the opposition.
I
And
don't. I'm
B,
talking about eye test. I'm
Edler
talking
is
about eye test.
carrying that combo.
Eye test wise, Edler makes a lot of bad decisions,
I
and
disagree.
you don't. That's my point. You don't see it because in your
I'm
brain,
gonna
in
say
your
you don't
brain,
see the Schmidt thing. Here's
so
my
in
problem
your
with it,
brain, you're
Colin.
like, oh, I like Edler. I like Edler. I like him a
No,
lot. But that's your
no,
brain because you want to think that way. That's my
Colin.
point.
One thing I will give you is I hate being like, I hate this situation where I'm like, okay, really? Like, I don't think that player's that good. And everyone's like, no, he's really good. So I go, okay, you know what? I'll give everyone the benefit of the doubt. He's probably pretty good. And then I watch 5 games and I go, I don't know, guys. And then I watch 10 and I go, and then 15, I go, no, he's bad. And everyone goes, no, you're wrong. And then it just drags on another 5 games, another 5 games. And it takes till the Tyler Myers situations where you see 80 games of a guy for people to start going, yeah, you know what? He's probably not worth his contract. I hate this. People won't be honest about it. They'll never be honest about it. And then you look at Edler. It's a whole different ballgame with Edler. What is Edler's problems? Foot speed, general decision making at
Makes some
times.
fucking bad decisions sometimes.
Yeah,
a lot.
yeah, we can agree on that. Nate Schmidt is a totally different and worse situation. Much
No.
worse.
No.
Much worse.
No.
Way worse. He's a way
No.
worse player. I'm sorry. He's a way worse
No,
player.
no, dude. Okay, you cannot sit there and say that about Nate Schmidt when you defend Edler. Like they literally both make so many. I'll agree, Nate Schmidt makes some bad decisions, but Edler over the last 3 or 4 years has made so many bad decisions.
This year, Alexander Edler has been a
not
much
talking
better
about Edler.
defenseman than Nate Schmidt.
I'm not talking about this year. I'm talking about in general. Over
I'm
the
just
last,
going off these whatever we've seen
you
24
think
games.
Edler's better than Nate Schmidt? Really?
I do.
You don't watch as much Nate. Okay, you watched 15 games of Nate Schmidt this year.
24.
Whoa, that's a lot.
You know what, man? I was told that everyone was the expert of Nate Schmidt. And then I came on this podcast. I said, who did he play with? And you guys couldn't even answer me that. I call bullshit.
Okay,
People did not. Yeah, I told you that last podcast. No one knew the answer. It's just ludicrous, man. I'm sorry. Look, I'm all for listening and hearing out, but when I've seen a bigger sampler size than I'm pretty sure anyone watched of Nate Schmidt on Vegas, I'm gonna call it out as that's just.
You're also compare. I just don't get how you can sit there and compare him in a season like this when the team in general has just been terrible. It just no. Don't roll your eyes at me. Don't roll your eyes at me. You put a bad player, you put a decent player on a bad team. How is he gonna perform? I'm not making an excuse. That's not me making an excuse at all. It's logic, is what it is. Fuck you.
All right, I think we're enough with this subject because you guys are just going off a little bit. But my stance will always be, like I just said before, the coach is not equipping these players in the right places and the right opportunities to be. I know, Colin. I can see the freaking timer. You don't have to tell me right in the middle of talking every time.
Sorry. I don't know. You can see it. I didn't know.
Like it's my Zoom call. How do you think I don't know how to do this?
So are we gonna end it pretty soon or what?
I don't know. You guys gonna talk about Edler and Nate Schmidt for the next 45 hours?
We haven't talked
I
about
can just tune out. And you guys
trade
can just do that because I know we're about freaking.
All right. So next up, we want to talk about Bo Horvat as a captain, comparing him to guys like Giordano. What do we think? How do we think he is as a captain? Where do we stand on that? Colin, start with you.
I'll say, I don't know. I mean, Giordano, I'm not going to say he's amazing. I'm not going to say he's bad. He's average. I'd say he's average. He's okay. I mean, I don't know if the mesh of the chemistry of the team's on him. I still think that team needs a big trade and a big, I think the management needs to step in there. I don't think that's on Giordano. I think he's okay. I wouldn't give him great props, but I don't know. He's better than average, but he's not amazing. I'd say with Horvat, I think he can be very good, but it seems to me like from for one, Green doesn't utilize him properly, but for two, he's disappointed me throughout this year. He's when like this, like I don't know if you'll ever see the Canucks struggle like they have this year. Like I don't think you'll ever see this for a long time again if we figure it out. And this is when the captain needs to step in, and on the ice, I just don't see it. Like he's not getting in scrums. He just doesn't seem like he's wearing his heart on his sleeve lately. And sure, you can be good in the locker room all you want, but on the ice, he just seems like another player. And like what I just said there. I like another player. That's what he seems like to me, and it's just not acceptable. Like I'm very disappointed, and I think he needs to. I'm not saying he's the wrong choice, but he just needs to. He's just not doing a good job right now, and it's just not good enough. He needs to be better.
Yeah, there's definitely
Needs to be more
some
of a leader.
analytics there that are missing. Like he doesn't. I don't know a whole lot about Jordan. I don't like comparing guys to people I don't really watch or know much about. But I will say this about Bo is that, like you say, I do like what you said. Just another player, honestly, is what it seems like when you watch him play, and it doesn't seem like he brings that awe-inspiring passion to want to drive the lineup up. But at the same time, nobody's really seeing that. But like you said, you expect that from him at these times in the lows. You need someone like that to be there. Is he the right guy? I don't know. But once again, it doesn't seem like there's any sort of passion or anybody really driving the ship there. So once again, I don't know if that's on ownership. I don't know if that's on GM. I don't know if that's on coach. I don't know if that's on Bo. But there's nobody stepping up to the plate. I'll say that.
Yeah. It's interesting because, yes, he's been disappointing, especially in the last 15 games. I hate how he doesn't seem to stick up for his teammates.
Yeah.
But then you look at his performance in the playoffs every time he's been in the playoffs, and that's been great. So I don't know. I don't know what to think about Bo. He's such a weird player.
Almost bipolar
he,
in a way.
yeah.
Well, I
Hockey,
think that what I
hockey
said,
bipolar.
Yeah.
I think of what I said is like he misses that aspect of analytics. Like a guy I listen to on Fox Sports, Colin Cowherd, uses that term. At least I guess a lot of people do, but that's where I heard it from. In that sense of, you can have someone who has the analytics and the stats that show you he's leading and proving. Like you said, come playoffs, he's there. But day in, day out, are you leading that team? Are you building that structure? Or are you just show up when you need to? Like that's not someone who's going to drive your lineup. That's not someone who you want to lead your team. That's, your captain, and that's someone you need to be able to handle all sorts of situations. And I don't know if he's there.
Yeah, totally makes me question. I like to use hockey bipolar. I'll say that because he's in the playoffs. He was standing up for his teammates and was.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't standing up for his teammates.
Well, I disagree with that. I'm not doing this argument thing again, but I disagree with that. He for Bo Horvat, he was. He doesn't use his hand for teammates, but for Bo Horvat, he was. I'll say that. He was more engaged. I'll say that. He was much more engaged.
I want to ask you guys something. Fast forward 3, maybe 4 years in the future. With this current group, who do you think probably is the leader and should be the captain?
JT Miller. Unless this season doesn't turn around for him, obviously, because there's been some sort of motivation issue there. But that's my immediate answer. I wouldn't even give Colin a second to breathe.
I'm still going with Horvat.
I kind of think Quinn Hughes.
To that same aspect, I don't know. I haven't noticed him at all this year, and he's somehow like our leading point getter. Like I haven't noticed him on that stepping. I mean, like I don't know, is that leadership role there? Except for he's the only player on our team who can break out the puck, so I have to notice him half the game.
Okay,
like you know what I mean? Like I know that face you say it, show it. So like other than that,
by not notice him, I see what you're saying now. Yeah.
Like once again, those analytics aren't there for me to see him as the leader of the locker room, except for he gets 2 goals and 16 assists. Like
to me, Miller seems I don't know. It's a combination. But you don't want your captain to be pouty, and he just seems pouty. I'm sorry.
But you
It's
don't
just-
want your captain to be soft either.
No, that's true. But Miller just seems like right now he's just so pouty, and people are like he's making people around him uncomfortable. Like
The
the
Calgary
way
effect.
the way I see Miller right now is his teammates around him feel uncomfortable by him, and you can't have that. That's not the right way to lead.
He would
That's the way
fit
I
right
see
in
it.
with Calgary. He would fit right in.
He just seems like a powder.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
feel like this is something that
Yeah,
we're seeing
100%.
over the last 15 games. Yes. But is that you once again holding yourself and the team around you to a higher expectation? He comes from a team like Tampa Bay where they're used to going to Stanley Cups, or at least trying to get
That's
there.
not leadership.
That's not
Hey,
the same
hey.
thing. It's not the same idea.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
It's
That's
I'm-
not the same.
okay,
That's
no,
not
no. Okay, I won't talk. You guys go ahead. You guys go ahead,
Go
talk it
ahead.
out. You guys go
Sorry.
ahead and just shit on him all day. All right, all good.
No, but come on, man. Like that is not
No.
the same fucking thing.
Once again, I have to look back and take into consideration everything that's going on. You guys love to harp on individual players within a shitty lineup under a shitty organization and a shitty coach, a shitty GM, and a shitty owner. Like, what the
Can I
fuck?
say-
Like,
can I say
like
one
once
thing?
again, I just don't think anyone is being set up for success in this organization. So
Yeah.
how can I
say
sit
one thing
there?
with Miller?
No, I'm still talking. Colin.
Sorry.
Talk when I'm done. Like, I just don't understand. Yes, if someone is sitting there, and especially if they feel like they are leading this team. Hey, who was one of the guys that was leading us at center last year when we were having the most success in the playoffs? JT Miller. And
Okay.
now we're taking him out of on his best opportunity to have success. We're putting him in a lineup that doesn't seem to fit with him. And like I said, and I believe he's the leader on that team because the second he steps in, he shows it, and he is taking control of that team ever since he's gotten here. Our play has never been the same. And it's absolutely ridiculous that we seem to shit on the guy because he's the only one that's keeping them all together. And at the end of the day, now, yes, he's pouting. Well, at the same time, you know, like I said, if he feels like he's really the only one there trying to lead this team and everyone's just kind of like, he doesn't have that card. He doesn't have the captaincy on his chest. He doesn't have the head coaching opportunity to say, this is what happens. Like,
If I'm his teammate right now, I feel awkward around him because he's so pouty, he's so cranky. That's uncomfortable. You don't want to feel uncomfortable around leaders on your team ever.
I feel like our whole
Ever.
team looks cranky and pouty, honestly.
No.
So I don't know, honestly.
Miller grumpy attitude right now.
Honestly, I had someone
message
us. I had someone message us on the Instagram the other day. Like our beauty West Coast beer life. He's just
Nice.
loves messaging us, and he sent
love
me the
that
perfect
guy.
thing the other day, and it was like he's like, you know, watching this team break out on a 4-on-2. Down
Yeah,
one,
it is
down 1-0 in
It
the
was
third
so
period,
bad.
and have two guys just peel off like they just are just going out to lunch. It just shows you how little motivation and opportunity they care to be out there. And that guy, he sums it up so clearly. And I was like, yes, like exactly that. If there was any motivation within that organization, that lineup, you would see them taking advantage of these things. And it's just, it's so hard. So
Yeah, you're not wrong. Okay, a couple things I want to say to that is if we get some of these guys on who have access to the locker room and are around the team, we should ask them how they feel about who is the leader in the group day to day. How do they see the group? These dynamics.
Yeah, 100%.
And I would like to hear that. One more thing too. I fucking forgot.
Well, I was just going to say, as I totally agree with what you're saying, that is definitely important because, like, even me saying that, that's pure speculation. That's pure me seeing what I see on the ice and seeing what I see in the lineup and thinking that who is what I believe is the leader of the team. Just like Colin saying, if I'm a teammate of his right now, I'm uncomfortable. That's pure speculation because we don't really know. We're not in that locker room day in, day out. Hopefully we get some insight with some of these other guys that will help us paint a bigger picture, because sometimes having these mixed elements doesn't help us, you know, just sit here and think of hypotheticals all day.
And what did you guys think of that? Like, there was that shot of PD, and then they scanned the whole bench. To me, okay, so it looked to me like PD was just like looked kind of depressed and just like
Defeated.
he didn't give a fuck anymore. But like not like, okay, so there's two types of not giving a fuck almost. Like you look at like Sutter, Beagle, they're all like, we're collecting checks. Yeah, we
Yeah.
suck. Like that's what they look like. They're just like blank. But Petey just looked like he hated his life and like, but he knew it was over. So he kind of like was sitting and stewing on the fact that this season is done, the year is over. Whereas the other guys look like, next week I get another check for $500,000. That's what it looked like to me. And I don't know, the whole thing looked so fucked. You saw all these character vets who didn't look that upset. They just looked like they were, you know, stamping in for another day and doing their 8 hours. And then you looked at the young guys and they just looked like completely demoralized. I don't know what to think about that. It just completely blew my mind.
Yeah, what that is lack of leadership, and like lack of leadership is what that is. It's just not there right now with this team.
So, I mean, if you're someone that's super competitive and you're sitting in that lineup and you're seeing just half of your team just like, yeah, all right, collect another check to play hockey. This is the life. And the other, group is just seething, just like can't stand that they're playing like this. I could definitely see where a handful of players will start to implode on themselves, kind of like you're saying with JT Miller and obviously Petey and Bowen of sorts. These guys are just, it's breaking them down a little bit.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, where are we at with moral victories? Do we think that okay, so at this point, like we all know where this season's going. We had this kind of conversation between the three of us the other day where I was trying to find the positives, and Colin pointed out that it's been 7 years of betting. The positives, it's not good enough anymore to find the positives in a bad game.
No.
And we need to look at this team and say, after 7 years, we got to be better. Where do we all stack up on
There's no more. I don't want to hear any more moral victory bullshit. I don't want to hear any more. We played a good game. It's a process. Like, that's what Travis Green always says. It's a process. I'm so sick of that shit. Okay, we didn't get a fucking win in the standings. That's all I care about right now. It's been 8 years. We're not winning. It's not good enough. If we're not winning games, if we have 45 shots on net to 17 and we lose a game, we lost. We weren't good enough. That's all I give a fuck about right now. It's results. We're in a result orient. Even before the season, Benning and Green were like, "Oh, we're gonna take a step ahead this year." If we're taking a step ahead this year, then we're not doing moral victories anymore. So they're conflicting with what they're saying. Basically, is what's going on right now. Yeah. No more victories. We're results. Go ahead, Austin.
No, I was gonna say it's just funny because a lot of the games during the week I don't get to watch, especially if they're 7 o'clocks, like in live. So you guys are always in the chat and you're going at it, and then I get to watch 3 hours later and kind of reflect on what your thoughts were. And to that point, Colin made a comment like, this is actually we played a really good game so far. And I just not watching a thing was like, well, we haven't scored yet, so we couldn't have played that good. Like we still haven't scored a goal, so we're obviously not doing that good. I know, no, 100%. And then I'll say this: I watched the game and I felt the exact same way. I was like, wow, you know what? We actually did play a pretty decent hockey. I've caught myself, and I was like, no, shut up. Like we didn't even score a freaking goal, but like,
I know.
Yeah, I totally.
The bar is that low.
It's embarrassing.
Okay. So I've been harping on this for a while, and I am pretty okay. Like I have a few concerns right now with the state of the team, but I'm pretty concerned about the fact that like this season's down the drain. We have some expiring assets, and we're not going to take advantage before it's too late. Now, this year is a unique year because shortened season, trade deadline is earlier on in the season. Plus, there's a 2-week quarantine. So it's hard to imagine, there's already the talk every year about you trade a guy to a team. That team doesn't have time to really get him into the lineup and get him adjusted to the system and get him at 100%. This year is even worse. It's shortened. They have less time. So, you can wait to the trade deadline, and maybe some teams will be stupid enough to take flyers on guys and give up assets for guys that they then have to give a 2-week quarantine to. But for the most part, the time is now, I believe, to start selling off assets. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to recoup anything for these guys. So you look at guys like Sutter, you look at guys like Ben, you look at guys like Pearson. maybe even a Beagle or Russell you get off the books.
Yeah.
This is maybe the time to do it. You have to be shopping these guys. You got to be open to everything. And you got to be ready to sell now because you got to make a call. And this is my big concern is like they're not willing to accept that this season's already done.
Yeah.
But I am
exactly.
for sure that this season is done. I'm sorry. It's highly, highly unlikely we're able to make a playoffs at this point just due to math. So now is the time to accept that this season's over and we need to sell off assets in my mind. What do you guys think?
What I'll say is previous deadlines, Banning has had a history of waiting a lot longer than he should in making a trade. And the Burrows year, he seemed to learn from that. And the Hansen, like when he traded Burrows and Hansen, he seemed to learn from that. I hope he's learned from that, but I just cannot sit here and give him a vote of confidence that he has. I just can't. And if he hasn't, then I have no words for that. Because at this point, we have the worst record in the league. Well, second worst behind Ottawa. Pretty much the worst record in the league. If you sit, if he doesn't at this point, he's not selling off assets or making those calls, then I have no words for that at all.
No, 100%. I agree. Like, he definitely have to be making those calls. But something I'm taking into consideration too is, like, I don't know. We see this view that the owners and the GM and the coach have of, like, you know, we could still do this. We still got a chance out there, man. Like, we only got to be fourth. You know, that old semi-pro line. We will win fourth place. Like, that's all we need to do is get fourth place, and we're in the playoffs, baby.
I hate that so much.
And to that effect, like, I understand. I do. I mean, I get it. And I
But
do know why.
did you
And
see
no. I was just saying, I do know why people have that view or whatever. But, like, I just feel that other teams too are probably in that same boat and are thinking the same thing. And in terms of, like, I don't know if I want to sell yet. I don't know if I want to hold yet. Like, I don't know what the deal is here. So I definitely think you
Did
need
you
to
see
be,
the
like you
math
say,
to
you
get
need.
in?
Oh, I'm sure we're long out. I don't think we're getting in.
So,
but
get in, you have to get, it's projected 65 points. And to get to 65 points over the course of the rest of the season, we'd have to play at the pace of Tampa Bay last season.
Perfect.
Oh, easy.
Makes sense.
Easy.
But
Like,
yeah,
that's not gonna happen.
No, exactly that, right? Like, it makes no sense. So you have to be making those calls now and trying to get teams to take some bait, especially the things we're hearing, if they are calling about Pearson, if they are calling about these guys, like, you need to be getting on that and taking advantage.
I heard in that rumor that Benning was told Arizona that they're not ready to deal Pearson yet. That was like 3 days ago. That was 3 days ago.
And that's the problem, man. And that just says everything, right? If that's true, well, that just shows you how deluded Benning is and how you have to. And here's the problem. Here's the long-term problem. You know, and we talk about everything in a vacuum because we have all these different topics and we talk about all these problems. And when we talk about a problem, a Benning problem, then we go on and we talk about a Green problem. Then we go on and talk about a roster problem. And then we go talk about a Francesco Aquilini problem. But now imagine this workplace where everyone is doing a bad job, according to us. And imagine your lead, like, we've all had that boss who's bad and worked that job where not only is the boss bad, but your coworkers are bad at their job. And it's just a fucking nightmare. And that's what the Vancouver Canucks organization clearly is. Everyone's looking around like, that guy's not very good at their job. And they're also at the same time not doing a very good job. Like, it's just a disaster. The house is, it's like that fucking meme where there's the dog in the house and the house is on fire and he's like, this is fine.
I don't know much to add to that. I agree with you. It's a mess. It's a shit show. It's an absolute fucking catastrophic fuck up is what it is. Honestly, at this point.
Yeah. But was there anything else you guys wanted to touch on, or should we?
I think we're pretty good. That's
wrap it
like
up?
an hour. That's like our longest podcast yet. I think that's pretty good.
Well, we had
Austin,
45 minutes straight of Nate Schmidt and Alex Edler conversations. So
Austin, you're gonna have one hell of an edit on this one, eh?
yeah, it'll be fun.
Holy fuck!
It'll be fun. Always is.
It's definitely gonna cut hard because there's a few times I started things up and it made no sense.
I feel bad. Austin's gonna edit this.
Yeah, the audio might be interesting, but I'll try and play with the video a bit.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Hockey Hour.